going on, guys? Let's flip it over real quick. Today's probably going to be my first big loss, I would say. I have roughly 20 cons on Microsoft. Just want to go through the thought process of it really quick. And naturally, I was thinking of Tesla. If you guys remember Tesla, with its earnings date here, ended up, reporting earnings. It opened down here right around like 419.70. But really, I was watching for like a buy zone off of 413.49, which was this low here. If we zoom out quite a bit, right, and we go all the way back on the weekly, you guys will see this was the old 2021 high, right? Like kind of lined up perfectly in that spot. So on Tesla's, move down from earnings, you guys can see like literally tap down into that level. If I just zoom out a little bit more. Right here, earnings ended up opening lower right off the open. It kind of teetered here for a little bit, and then it sold down to 414.50 and rallied right off 414.50. It consolidated for a little bit and even pulled back onto the previous open, I'm sorry, not the previous open, but the current opening price, and then it rallied pretty much all day, right? And it filled the earnings gap within one day, and that was sitting in my mind with the trade I took today, which was Microsoft, right? Microsoft ended up selling off. As you guys can see, the gap fill for this one is 543 flat. If you take a look at the daily as well, right, considering actually it was 541.55. That was weird. I don't know why I did that. So 541.55 is the gap fill. Obviously, we gapped down, and through that, right, we left a gap fill here that's still technically unfilled, and then we ended up filling a downside print. So if you look at this from the upside perspective, we can fill this here, right? And then if I mark this again, right, you guys can see from here to here, we have another gap fill, right? So we have two gap fills to fill in one if we press to the upside. And then looking at where we opened today, I was really looking for us to pull down into 523.61, get that same exact look that Tesla had for a pull down into that level. This lined up really nicely with the EMAs as well, right into the 921 as I specified in the Discord. And I wanted to try to, take a position if it pulled down right away, and if it didn't and it consolidated slightly above, I was going to start and then try to carry the full thing, right? As you guys can see, right, I mean, everything kind of went to plan a little bit. I took it here as it kind of consolidated, and then it ripped up, and I was up about 30% on 10 contracts. I was honestly in the bathroom, so I didn't like trim anything. And then it pulled down again, and then it rallied back up, I think on this bar, or it might have been this bar or something like that. Maybe this one here is one of these guys where I actually pushed back up to like 25, 30%, and I did manage to get off 5, and then it sold down, pushed back up, right? And I believe this was where I was break even again, and then it pulled down again, and then I added another set of 10 contracts. So I got to about like 20 contracts or so right off of the gap fill here at 523.61. And these actually didn't do too poorly, right? Off of this bottom here, I came right back to like break even, obviously, because my cost basis was lower since adding off 523.61. But what really hurt me is the fact that it didn't do what Tesla did, right? Tesla obviously had a big rally off of that one, consolidated here, and then it ripped higher. If you guys just reflect on the chart I previously showed, this consolidated, really just theta decay, and then it sold and made it not a new low necessarily, it basically double bottomed, but this sell-off here really destroyed the contracts. It went down like 60, 70%. Rally here pulled me back to like negative 55%, but now it's just kind of in the overnight session's hands on what ends up happening. I've kind of just chalked this up to like a 4, 6 grand loss, whatever it may be. And I put a post out, right? Even on Twitter, I posted it. When you have a big win like this, it's so important not to have a death by 1,000 paper cuts. You don't want to be like, just because you made 30 or 40K, be tossing 10K into this, 10K into this, 10K into this, and you slowly start bleeding that out. I really think the emphasis I want to make on this is I really don't want to be shorting the market, but I also don't want to be playing really short-dated stuff. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I really just want to be focusing on the 11/21 expiration. I want to be focusing on the 12/19 expiration, and then the 2026, right, the January 2026. Those are really the longer dated ones that I want to be focusing on and building positions in. I don't think I'm going to be doing a 1 DTE or a 0 DTE or even like short dated SPX or SPY or anything like that. I just think it's an easy way to bleed out. and I want to try to protect profits as much as I can. Obviously, I had the NVIDIA contracts that were kind of lottos. I had 5 of those that will probably be nothing as well. And then I also had the QQQs, right? I was looking for 610. We did sell to 627 if you guys saw, so that was like the first layer of that dark pool print that we saw to the downside. We still have another one here. I believe it's at 617, and then the final fill would be 610. So it was just too far out of the money for the rally that we had, and then obviously Apple and Amazon ended up performing well. So those 2 contracts are going to be 0 as well. So I'm just going to not be doing anything, silly like that, or taking like, positions where if I don't take it seriously, I'm not going to take it, because those can't add up. And obviously Microsoft, I got a little overzealous just comparing that to Tesla's chart. Chart still looks good, which is why I wasn't really afraid of starting the 11/21 expiration. I think that was good. But like I said, I think I just got a little overzealous with the other 10 contract add to get to the 20 contracts. That will be a pretty big loss if we don't get a gap up above 530 and rally tomorrow. The 11/21 should be fine. I'm comfortable adding into those ones as long as we can maintain 523.61. This kind of reminds me of NVIDIA's chart. When NVIDIA sold down, it wasn't from earnings, it was that Friday liquidation, but we basically had kind of this consolidation here against this gap fill, if you guys remember, and then it kept trying to like soak underneath, and every time it broke underneath, buyers kept pulling it up. Buyers kept pulling it up, buyers kept pulling it up, and it did it over and over and over again. Candle spread started to get pretty thinned out, except for this last Wednesday shakeout, which was, like coincidentally of expiration. And then from there, right, it closed back above 180, and then it rallied. I think Microsoft can virtually do the same exact thing. Obviously this needs to have a different pathway where, we can rip above 530 or maybe just base around 523, but goal is a break above 530, 48, and then a slow trend back up into that 541.55 for the gap fill itself there. That's probably what I'm looking at. And then the other name that I'm looking at, guys, is honestly Tesla. I really don't like these consolidations like this, but this hasn't really sold too drastically off of this gap fill here, right? I've been talking about how this is, going to act as a major resistance moving forward on the chart. Really, this was the day that should have sold it. It pulled down to I guess, like the top of that 2021 high, as I mentioned, where the earnings kind of fell off into, and then it rallied from there. And since then, it's been forming like higher lows. I would still like to see this break underneath like 440 and then come to 433.72 to fill this last remaining gap here. And if it can fill that and it holds relatively strong, or it puts in a really nice daily bar, I'm actually kind of looking to do the same thing on this as I am with Microsoft, for just a bounce back trade into 11/21 expiration for a move back up into the gap fill here, right? And then I think this can, absolutely continue. So, I know a lot of people like me drawing this stuff out. So this was to sell. I would like this to bounce right here and hold, and then start a trend back up, get back above that low, and then start to break out. Obviously, it would need to reclaim the open from today, so it would probably go like this, kind of hold back into this gap like that, and then I would look for a rally up into 561, and I think that should have enough juice, honestly, to push up to 588, which is I think that's the all-time high. Yeah, that's the all-time high there. So Tesla next on the list, and Microsoft are probably the 2. ETHA, I started 5 contracts on this one. Honestly, this one doesn't look too good either. If this can reclaim 21, I know it got like a bid overnight. If this can reclaim 29, I still think it's in play, and it's still applicable to be able to add into. Just, a little bit lower than I would have liked, but if this can just reclaim here, I think this is still good to go. Ethereum, right? If you guys have been looking at Ethereum at all, it looks a little shaky. This still could be kind of like the SOS here, as I mentioned, on like a higher time frame, the weekly, the monthly. Still giving this a little bit of grace, even though a lot of people are getting kind of fed up with this range. That's typically what happens if this is the correct spot. So that's still on the board as well. So really just kind of Ethereum on the third, on the list. Tesla and then Microsoft are kind of the forefront. Like I said, unfortunately, and I am sorry, it does happen, guys. I can't control it. I'm human. I've been trading, and it's always about taking like 3 or 4 steps forward, like we did with QCOM and NVIDIA, and then trying to mitigate as many steps backwards as you can, right? So this would be a big 1 step back. Like I said, like 5-6K, I'll probably be down on it. Just slowly trying to make that up, or if we see a fat pitch, we can probably make that back in one trade with even light size, as we did with QCOM. So that's going to be pretty much it. Just a quick little weekly scan talking about the mistake I made with Microsoft, kind of drawing the comparison as to why I took it. and letting you guys know why I also took the 1121s. It happens to the best of us, guys. We gotta, it's a good reminder for people that have even been trading a long time. Old or bad habits, or are getting a little too excited about a trade and adding too quickly, can get you no matter how long you've been doing it. It's just important to acknowledge it and not do it again. I haven't done that in a little bit, so. I think the last loss that I took like this was AMD and Meta when I was shorting kind of like the tops, and obviously the SPY rally that I thought was the top as well. So it's been like 2 months, I want to say. Been on a pretty good streak here. Obviously, Meta might be on watch, guys. I've been tracking this as a distribution, as you guys know, for a really, really long time. This was the buy climax. I think this was the up thrust, and this was like the upper range of it. Maybe if this can push back up and retest into like 695, this could be a short. But as I said, I'm not really interested in shorts as of right now. Still, so probably just those three for now, and then kind of reevaluating as those hit target, and then we kind of switch our look up a little bit. So that's gonna be it, guys. Hope you guys are doing okay. Hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, let's just try to brush it off and kind of move on to the next one.